episode 2 of Mini Mad Lads. I'm keeping it going because you guys just enjoyed the first one so much, and the feedback that I got from everyone is to not combine a mishmash of Mad Lads into one video to make it as long as the big main feature ones, and instead make the Mini Mad Lad videos actual mini videos and just focus on one Mad Lad and just make it a little short form video, which is fine. I'm absolutely fine with doing that. That actually helps me keep a regular upload schedule. You want me to do less work? Hell yeah, I'm fine with that. But what I'm going to do over these next few short episodes is I'm going to stick with a little bit of a theme. A little bit of a theme for the next few episodes. Now, we do all enjoy our Mad Lads. We love people that are very, very mad. But what is even better than people? Animals. Animals just factually are much better than people. So that is going to be the theme over these next few short videos, right? This is something that's brand new. We're just experimenting. We're just playing around. We're just winging it. Speaking of wings, Cher Ami. But before we get into the Mini Mad Lad, today's video is sponsored by World of Tanks Blitz. I find this game extremely fun because I get to blow up other tanks with my tank, which is manly. I'm a manly man. I like manly stuff, and blowing things up is manly. Tanks are manly. Mobile games are manly. I am manly. Manly. I don't know what else I need to say to sell it more. It has competitive and challenging gameplay, excellent PvP, as well as historically accurate tanks, or ones that are completely made up, just for fun. Devise strategies to take down the enemy team and also play with friends. There are a lot of different tanks to choose from, different nations and different classes, so you can customise your playstyle. The more you level up, the more new equipment you can research and unlock for your tank. You can even customise your tank with different camos for realism and really silly ones, just for a laugh. So click my link down below to download World of Tanks Blitz and you will get a free 500 gold, 7 days of premium account access, and a tier 2 American light tank T1E6. New sponsor, boys! Show them some love! Click the link! Our first animal mad lad is Cher Ami, which is French for dear friend. And Cher Ami was a pigeon. A female blue check racing Homer pigeon. These were pigeons that were purposefully bred for their speed and agility. Cher Ami was a homing pigeon that had been donated by Britain to the US Army Signal Corps when they were deployed in Europe during World War I. Homing pigeons were used a lot during World War I, and they were called war pigeons. But sadly, they were not used for combat purposes. Radio communication was used during World War I, but the technology was still in its infancy, and it wasn't deployed as widely or effectively as it could have been. So if soldiers wanted to send messages back to headquarters from the front lines, they had to rely on the old school methods. And one of these methods was homing pigeons. Soldiers who were on the front lines, whenever they wanted to send a message back to HQ, they would write the message on a piece of paper, roll the paper up and put it inside a capsule, and then attach the capsule to the pigeon's leg, and then release the pigeon. And that being a homing pigeon, it would fly back to its home, which is its coop, which was usually based in headquarters, although sometimes these coops were even mobile. And when the pigeon landed inside its coop, there were wires along the floor of the coop, which when the pigeon landed on them, it would trigger an alarm, a bell or a buzzer, notifying the signal corps that a message had come in. You know, kind of like a ringtone. Homing pigeons, though, were sort of used as a last resort if no other methods of communication were available. The most common forms of communication during World War I was sending messages down telegraph wires, but the problem with that is you needed the wire to be with you so that you could send the message, which meant that if you and your men were travelling through the battlefield, you would have a bunch of men carrying really big, heavy rolls of cable so that they could, like, roll it out and lay it out behind them, you know, kind of like Hansel and Gretel's trail of breadcrumbs, so that you had the end of the wire with you at all times so that you could send a message down it back to HQ. The problem with these wires, though, is sometimes you could see them stretched out on the battlefield going to the position you were hiding in, so they kind of gave your position away. Also, if the Germans found them, they would just cut them and cut you off from contact to HQ. And also, the wires were just constantly destroyed by the constant shelling and bombardments. Now, the other method was to send out a runner. A runner was a soldier, usually chosen at random by the commander, who would be given the message, and it would be his job to personally deliver the message back to HQ. Now, if the runner was really lucky, there would be a trench system going from his position all the way back to HQ, which meant he had some cover to safely travel back. It was still dangerous as fuck, but at least he had some cover, improving his chances of survival. However, if there was no trench system, and there was no cover, that meant that the runner had to leave the safety, or wherever he was taking cover in, and he would have to run across no man's land. Now, sometimes the runners would, get down and commando crawl all the way back. Sometimes there would be no cover for them to safely do that, so they would just have to do as the name says and fucking run. At best, you would make it back to HQ, deliver your message, and be rewarded with a nice hot cup of tea. At worst, you would be excellent target practice for the Germans. Runners did not last long. Here is the message, old boy. I now order you to climb out of this trench and promptly die. For king and country. Tally-ho. To get back to the subject of, pigeons, despite them not being anywhere near as fast as literal radio signals or the telegraph wire, homing pigeons were still a very effective way to safely get a message back to HQ. The problem was the Germans knew that pigeons were being used to relay messages, so the Germans knew that if they ever saw one go up in the air, it was probably carrying vital intel. So anytime the Germans seen a pigeon go up in the air, they would try and shoot it down. Which is what almost happened on the 3rd of October 1918 during the Meuse-Argonne offensive, when the American 77th Division suffered what can only be described as one of the biggest military shit shows ever seen in history. A shit show so bad that it earned them the name the Lost Battalion. The 77th Division consisted of 550 men from 9 different divisions, and they were taking cover at the side of a hill behind enemy lines. Unfortunately, their position meant that they were taking very, very heavy fire from the Germans, and they were also taking very heavy friendly fire from their own side, who thought that they were Germans. Major Whittlesey, the leader of the battalion, sent out several runners carrying messages, asking for fire support so that they could retreat safely, but also asking the other battalions to stop fucking shooting at them. Unfortunately, all of these runners were either killed or captured, so Major Whittlesey started sending out the homing pigeons. The first pigeon had a message which said, "Many wounded, we cannot evacuate." But that pigeon was shot down. Then they sent out a second pigeon with a message that said, "Men are suffering, can support be sent?" That pigeon was also shot down. Then, suddenly, the soldiers felt hope. They heard the friendly artillery barrage starting. This was exactly what they needed. This was the exact thing they needed to drive the German forces back so that the entire battalion could retreat safely. except the friendly artillery fire was targeted directly on their own position. And while the shells were raining down all around them, they sent out their final homing pigeon, Cher Ami. And Cher Ami was given a message which said, "We are along the road parallel to 276.4. Our own artillery is dropping a barrage directly on us. For heaven's sake, stop it." The soldiers released Cher Ami, and despite the fact that shells were raining down all around her, she managed to successfully take off, carrying the message. Unfortunately, the Germans spotted Cher Ami rising up out of the American position, and they opened fire on her, and one of the Germans managed to hit her. Cher Ami fell from the sky and crashed into the ground right in the middle of no man's land. The way the bullet hit her, it seems to have skimmed her entire body. One of her legs was hanging off and was only hanging on by just a little bit of tendon. She had a massive hole blown in her breast, and she also lost one of her eyes. Cher Ami then somehow, just fucking somehow, manages to take off again. Despite the fact that her leg's blown off, she's got a big fucking hole here, she's missing an eye, shells are landing all fucking around her, and the Germans opened fire on her again when they saw her take off. Despite fucking all of that, she managed to make it back to home base, which was 40 kilometres away, in 25 minutes, and successfully delivered her message. The artillery barrage was called off, and an operation was started to rescue the lost battalion. But by the time the lost battalion were rescued, out of the 554 men, only 196 were left alive. Now, primarily in this video, I want to focus on Cher Ami. I mean, the Lost Battalion story is this whole other huge thing, but I still advise that you go and read about that yourself. It's interesting to see how so many military fuck-ups could be made in such a short space of time. I mean, the experience that the Lost Battalion suffered, not just at the hands of the Germans, but at the hands of their own side, was so traumatic that after the war, Major Whittlesey kinda... yeah. Because Cher Ami was so fucked up, she was treated by army medics. Yeah, army medics treated a pigeon. They were unable to save her leg, obviously, but one of the soldiers was nice enough to carve a little artificial wooden leg for Cher Ami. When she was well enough to travel, Cher Ami was put on a boat back to the United States, and she was given an honourable discharge from her military service due to her injuries. Cher Ami was awarded the Croix de Guerre medal with an oak leaf cluster, not just for her efforts in helping save the Lost Battalion, but also for successfully delivering 12 messages during the Battle of Verdun. Verdun, now that was a fucking shit show, but again, that is another story for another time. Unfortunately, Cher Ami's wounds were very severe and they never really fully properly healed, and sadly she finally passed away from her wounds on the 13th of June 1919. Cher Ami actually received a lot of posthumous awards as well. She was given the Animals in War and Peace Medal of Bravery. She was also given a gold medal from the American Racing Pigeon Fanciers Club. That's a poor choice of words. And she was also inducted into the Racing Pigeon Hall of Fame, because apparently that's a fucking thing. Just some other fun information that I came across while researching this. Homing pigeons were also used in World War II for sending intel from behind enemy lines because radio communication could be intercepted. But the Germans were ready for it this time around. So the Germans had trained military Nazi falcons. No, really. They had military trained Nazi falcons whose job it was to chase down and kill these pigeons. Trained Nazi falcons whose job it was to stop the pigeon. There you go. I said it. But it goes even deeper than that. In response to these German Nazi falcons killing the pigeons and intercepting the intel, MI5 set up a special unit whose job it was to assassinate the Nazi falcons. And this unit was called the Falcon Destruction Unit. No, really. This was a fucking thing. Also, if you want to see Cher Ami, you can. She was taxidermied and she's actually currently on display at the Smithsonian Museum. I just find it absolutely amazing that the lives of hundreds of men were saved by a pigeon. And Cher Ami has absolutely no idea that that's what she was doing. She was just thinking, why are there explosions everywhere? Why is my leg hanging off? Holy shit, my tits hurt. I want to just go back and chill in my coop. Not realising that by doing that, she saved the lives of hundreds of men. I just find that amazing. However, I don't find it very comforting that a pigeon has accomplished more than you ever have.
It's Count Dankula on YouTube. Everybody should subscribe. Yeah.